feel you're equipped to contribute to the current Alameda School Board?
So I think that we are going to be making some really tough decisions over the course of the next couple of years about our schools. And I feel like my experience working in school districts across the country is going to be really helpful. I think I have the ability of having a lot of different experiences to pull into some of those decisions that we're going to make. And as a nonprofit executive director for many years, I have the ability to really think about how to have children and families at the center of our work, because that's been my work for a very long time. And I've been studying and working on education policy for the better part of my lifetime. So I think that brings a lot of assets to the table. I think I have a lot to bring to the table.
Now, for this week's question, I'm going to ask you, how has founding and working at an education-based nonprofit prepared you for joining the school board?
So I've been working in the nonprofit sector for many years, in education always. I think more recently I actually had the ability to found a nonprofit and go from having an idea to bringing a team together to thinking about how to fundraise and thinking about how to build a collective vision around the around the work that we're doing. And I think all of those things are really helpful when you're talking about being on school board, because that's the kind of moment we're in. We need to be thinking about what we can do better, and we need to make sure that we have the resources to be able to do that. And in some ways, we need to be thinking out of the box. So to the extent that my experience as a founder of a nonprofit is going to be able to make sure that we can elevate the kinds of decisions that we're making as a school board, I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Now, for this week's question, I'm going to ask you, what other academic background do you have that makes it so you're more prepared to be a school board trustee?
So I've had the good fortune of being able to, during a pretty kind of, a lot of movement when I was growing up, I was able to go to a phenomenal school for elementary through high school. So from age 9 to 17, I went to one school, and that school was really founded on the principles of consensus building, on really making sure that people felt connected, and was focused on community. So I think that's an important part of my academic background. I do have also the ability to say that I've gone on to really great schools post-secondary. So I went to Yale College, where I studied child psychology and child development, which was really cool. I also went on to Harvard Ed School, where I actually studied school boards. And I also went to Yale Law School, which helped me to really have a focus on child advocacy and family supports, and really understanding the ins and outs of the complexities of, in particular, the ed code.
Well, for this week's question, I'm about to start middle school. What is your favorite memory from middle school?
Oh, Michael, I knew you'd get with me one of these weeks with one of these questions. So middle school, so many amazing memories, but one that really stands out for me is I was able to take a psychology class in middle school. And it was that psychology class, like we were sitting there talking about Freud and Jung and archetypes and all this crazy stuff, that was the seed that was planted for me about being able to go on to study psychology in college. So it was that one class and randomly being able to take psychology as an 8th grader that made me decide to focus on child development. And then mostly the other parts of middle school were just all about trying to understand my friendships, and I also fell in love with basketball when I was in middle school. I started to play on the middle school basketball team. So that's it: psychology, basketball, and figuring out how to be a good friend. That's what middle school was about for me.
Now, this week, I'm going to ask you, besides running for school board, what is your regular life like?
Whoa. My regular life is super fun, a little chaotic, sometimes crazy, always filled with love. So mostly you'll see me in my mama van, which I have, driving around one of my 3 kids as they're going to their different sports activities or community activities. That's a big part of my everyday. Going to work and being a part of my nonprofit as the executive director there. That's a huge part of my work. We're really thinking about doing some amazing things. And so I get to think big, but then I also spend some days like working with different parents and working with my team. So that's a really important part of my day. And then I also get to spend a little bit of my life supporting my husband, Rob, who's an assembly member for this district. And through the work that he's done, I've been able to know a lot about the different kind of policies that are shaping this state of California. And so every day is a little different, but always crazy. My mom says, I really can't keep up with your life almost every day to me, but it's fun.
Now, this week the question is, since your motto is quality, equity, innovation, what do you mean by quality with reference to the school board?
So quality with reference to the school board and the schools is really focused on what are we wanting our children and our students to be able to graduate doing? Like what kind of college experiences do we want them to be prepared for? Life experiences do we want them to be able to reach, and what kind of careers and jobs are we ensuring that they are set up to succeed in life with? And so quality for me is what's happening in the classroom. Is it high quality teaching and learning? Are we offering rigorous curriculum? Are we making sure that teachers have the ability to design their instruction in a way that is engaging for students? That's what I mean by quality.
Now, this week's question is sort of based off of the previous question. Since your motto is quality, equity, and innovation, what do you mean by equity with reference to the school board?
Equity is the biggest E ever in our dictionary of words to be able to use when we talk about schools. So equity to me is at the heart of what I do, the heart of the way I think about the world, and is why I do the work that I do in my nonprofit work. And it's, I think, what should be at the core of all of our decisions when we're talking about teaching children and making sure that every child has what they need to succeed. So equity simply is the idea that children come to schools with different backgrounds, with different needs, with different realities and experiences, and we want to make sure that we're providing resources and experiences that match the need of every single child. So simply make sure that we're teaching and educating and supporting wherever a child comes to us with their experience behind them.
Now, for the final question, I have to ask you, since your motto is quality, equity, and innovation, what do you mean by innovation with reference to the school board?
For me, innovation in our schools is really what we should be thinking about all the time. So when I think about innovation, it's about thinking about how we teach our 21st century learners, how we prepare them and provide educational opportunities that really mirror the worlds that they're going to go into when they graduate from our school system. So innovation is about being creative, it's about thinking out of the box, it's about figuring out different ways that we're making sure that we have the ability to educate every child based on their need, and to do that in a way that's compelling. So, and innovation is about being kind of resourceful. So in this time when we're really struggling in terms of the amount of budget and money that we have for our schools, the way that I think we're going to be able to provide this kind of quality education for our children is we got to be innovative about how we do that. And I'm really excited about thinking through that with us.
Thank you so much for joining in and doing
Thanks,
this
Michael.
interview. It was really fun having you. And do you have anything that you'd like to say to the viewers before this series ends?
Well, I'm really glad that you all have gotten a chance to know me through this process and through these interviews that you've been doing with me for the better part of how many weeks, Michael?
Like 18 maybe?
through the better part of 18 weeks, and I'm glad that I've been able to share my story and share my passion and why I'm running for school board. And more importantly than anything, make sure to get out the vote by November 6th.
Anyway, yet again, thank you so much for coming here and answering these questions, and I hope the next time I see you or interview you, you are in the Alameda School Board.
I do too, Michael.
Bye.